Following the devastating effects of the Great War, a group of survivors from southern Louisiana moved north to escape the devastating floodwaters that had inundated the Mississippi Delta. They made their way to the city of Shreveport, or what remained of it, where they rebuilt upon the ruins. With a good dose of southern ingenuity, they sank hundreds of wooden piles into the riverbed and built a new city atop the water. The imaginative metropolis was accessible only by fan boats. It featured an array of docks and fortified warehouses, along with an intricate system of boardwalks, bridges, and zip lines. Over time, other survivors from the Bayou region arrived, and a faction known as the Swamp Runners was born. Within a few years, the Swamp Runners built a highly ordered and integrated smuggling network, and they gained a reputation for procuring hard-to-find items. Our story begins as the Swamp Runners begin the process of forming their initial party of explorers.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Solo Gamers Club. Tonight we'll be returning to the outstanding game from Fallen Dominion Studios, Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game. In tonight's episode, I'll be controlling the Swamp Runners. They're based out of Shreveport, Louisiana. In this playthrough, we'll once again be using the Solo Variant 2 rules that are found in the Journey into Darkness expansion. Since my last playthrough, I've studied the rulebook more closely, and I found a few rules that I had missed during my first playthrough. The first one involves the movement deed. Upon a closer examination of the rules, I found the player must perform an encounter action or an action pertinent to the party's current location, meaning resource deed or mission deed, before another movement deed may be taken, even if it carries over into another month. This rule does not apply when the party occupies the location containing their base. To help me distinguish this, I'm going to rotate the map token 90 degrees following a movement deed. This will prompt me to execute an encounter deed before resolving another movement deed. Another item that I found also involves the movement deed, and again with a closer inspection of the rules, I discovered that a party may always enter an adjacent space by expending all their remaining movement points, even if the terrain costs exceed their remaining movement points. Another item I found out is that we don't begin the game with a resource unless it's stated in the faction perks. In the case of the Swamp Runners, it says that they're connected. They begin the game with a resource location of your choosing. Place your faction chip there to claim it. To begin, let's take a look at the perks associated with this faction. To start off, the Swamp Runners are connected, as we had said earlier. This allows them to begin with a resource location already under our control. Their Southern Ingenuity perk allows us to discard an action card to draw a spoils card. This option is available to us during each effects phase. There's also Smuggler's Network, which allows us to gain 3 salvage coins each time we sell a spoils card from our auction house. This will provide us with some extra income that can be used for other purchases. Finally, we have Born on the Bayou, and that gives us a +2 fight during player versus player. As PvP is uncommon during the solo play, this perk will be only of marginal value. We begin the game with a hospital and a communications center. This will provide us with +1 medical success and a +2 to party movement. Now let's take a look at our starting characters, spoils cards, and action cards. Our first character is Monica Pitcher. She's a backstreet bootlegger. Her flavor text reads, "Some people think that I'm spiteful, but I have a whimsical side too." Her special ability is when Monica is in the same party as her husband, Bill Pitcher, all hexes cost 1 movement. Now she's going to gain a link if she has a sock monkey, shotgun, or alcohol, and that's going to give her +2 to diplomacy. She has 6 health and a sanity of 4. Next is Herman Crawford. He's a grizzled locksmith. And his flavor text reads, "In the past, I've always plied my trade to the highest bidder. Now I believe in the cause." He's going to gain 2 mechanical successes on all lockpicking encounter cards and Sigma Bunker mission cards. And his link would be for lockpick guide and tools. Each end turn phase gain 1 spoils card. That's pretty good. He has 5 health and a psych of 4. Next is Addison Morley. He's a veteran park ranger. His flavor text is, "It's way too quiet. Something's not right." It says there, when you gain an ally spoils card, draw a character card. They may be equipped to your party or placed in your town roster. His link ability is Axe or Compass and Maps, which would give him 1 to survival and +2 to combat. He has 6 health and 3 for his psychological defense. Next is Dominic Sinclair. He's a Herculean bouncer. And his flavor text is, raising an eyebrow. Seriously? Don't even think about it. Tool bag. His special ability is, you may substitute Dominic for any 1d6 random character rolls. Once per game, he can ignore 2 damage. His link is a melee weapon which offers +3 to his combat. He has a massive 9 health and 3 psychological defense. Next is Staff Sergeant Carter Neal, veteran town scout. His flavor text is, they won't even see us coming until it's too late. Special ability is pay 4 salvage coins before drawing a mission card to instead draw 2. Choose 1 to attempt and discard the other. That's very powerful. His link is an assault rifle. It gives him 1 to survival and +2 to combat. He also has a massive 9 health with a massive 5 psychological defense. Good character. And finally we have Cassie Reardon, adventurous artist. Her flavor text is, does this mean I don't have to pay off my student loans? Her special ability is, whenever you sell a spoils card from your auction house to a player, receive 3 salvage coins from the bank. She also has an ability, once per game, reverse any action card played on your party or town back to the initiator. NPCMs ignore the effect. She has a health of 6 and a psychological defense of 3. And now we'll take a look at the squad as a whole. We have a combined combat value of 36, survival of 39, diplomacy of 35, mechanical of 36, technical 35, medical 34, and a total portage capacity of 84, which averages to about 14 for each character. The average total value for a character is 35 points combined. However, a expert or master level has 40 points. So we could understand this as each category's average should be 35. Now we have one that is below average, and that's the medical value. So we're going to have to select 5 characters to play out of these 6, and 1 will be placed in the town roster. This was somewhat of a tough decision to decide who to leave out, but I've decided that I'm going to put Cassie Reardon in the town roster, in the reserve. Now this is our starting spoils cards. We don't have any vehicles, surprisingly, so that's kind of a disappointment. But what we do have is 2 pieces of body armor, which is somewhat usually kind of rare. It's tough to acquire that. And we have a ultimate laptop, which will give us a +1 to movement, which is good. And we do have a couple pieces of equipment, and one of them is a basic med kit and a pre-war disaster kit. So that will help for us to make up our deficit that we have kind of in our medical attributes. We're going to assign this equipment to our starting characters, and before we do that though, we're going to take a look at our action cards. And these are our starting action cards. We received some good ones. First one is Veteran Reinforcements. Play during the party exploits phase to gain 2 successes towards all combat skill checks made by this party, or NPCM for this turn, or before any dice are rolled, play during the party exploits phase to increase the difficulty of an encounter or mission card's combat skill checks by 2. And that's worth 9 salvage. Then we have Safe Haven. Play during the party exploits phase. Move your party to the nearest neutral starting town and heal all forms of damage, returning your party to full health. They may not be targeted by any action cards or attacked in PvP for the remainder of the turn. Finally, all NPCMs in play are immediately discarded. Then we have Professional Town Militia. This is a good one. Play during the town business phase. Attach this card to your town player mat. Then discard it anytime for one of the following. When one of your owned resources is claimed, cause an additional 2d6 damage by a party. NPCMs fail their task. Ignore a loss of up to 5 town health, or prevent any destruction, theft, kidnapping, or sabotage that affects your town. It has a value of 2. All right, now we're going to get to assigning our equipment to our party. After taking a little bit of time, I dispersed our equipment in this manner. Now, I don't know if this is a true thing in the game or not, but I placed my more capable characters in slots 1 and 2. I don't know if that actually has any effect during the game or not, but that's how I've kind of organized things. I've got my top 2 people, Sergeant Carter and Dominic Sinclair. I've given them the armor, and that's because they have the highest health values, so that would maybe protect that armor a little bit more. And then Monica Pitcher, I'm using her kind of as our medical person, even though she's really not in that category, but with the basic medical kit and Larry's Guide to Civil War Surgery, those will kind of bump her numbers up, and I think that would be a good use for her. She has this genuine sock monkey puppet, and that's one of her link abilities, and I've placed a green counting chip there. I'm going to use the counting chips to note which characters have met their link abilities, and I like those chips because they're see-through. I can see the value underneath it. So this will be our starting party. Now, one of our faction perks is connected, and that says that we begin the game with a resource location of our choosing. Place your faction chip there to claim it. All right, well, I've done that, and I've placed a marker on the resource that is nearest location 77. That's the one that I selected. And that's going to give us 1 point towards our town health, so I've marked it accordingly. Now, we start the game with a communication center, and that gives us +2 to movement. And we also have a ultimate laptop, which gives us +1 to movement. So we're at +3 now for our movement bonus, which is pretty good. The 2 factions that we'll be opposing are the Highwaymen, and they're located in Sturgis, South Dakota. And the other faction is the Enclave of Terra, and they're located in Great Falls, Montana. I've placed the 7 mission tokens, and we rolled randomly to determine those locations. Ends up we have mission number 7, which is very close by in space 84, which will be convenient for us. During the game, I'm going to use this translucent blue dye, and that is going to be used to track the number of weeks that we expend during our party exploits phase. I always have trouble remembering how many weeks I've spent. So we'll use this and just count it down as we go, 4, 3, and 2, and 1, etc. And that'll use that as a reminder for myself as to how many weeks we've used during the party exploits phase. And one thing I think is important, especially in a solitaire play of really any game, but in this one in particular, you really have to put yourself in the place of being the leader of a group of post-apocalyptic survivors, and really kind of go into that narrative and try to make the best choices that you would if you really were the leader of this group. And I think that really adds a lot to the fun of the game. And games like this that offer you that ability where it feels like you're actually the leader of that group, that is a sign of a good game, that they have translated that condition into the game where you actually get that feeling, then that is a sign of a good game. But I think it's important that we try to do that and really try to make the best decisions regarding the health of the group and the finances and resources and equipment and things like that, to try to make the best choices possible. One thing I should discuss before we start play is one piece of special equipment that we have. It's called a pre-war disaster kit. And it says here, once per turn before your party exploits phase, roll a d6. And the results are you re-roll a 10 on the skill check, draw 1 action card, heal 2d6 damage, gain +2 movement, gain 3 salvage coins, or a no effect. So that's kind of an interesting piece of equipment, and we'll have to hopefully remember to use that each turn before our exploits phase. All right, we're going to begin the first turn. We start with the effects phase, and that would be where we resolve any existing and ongoing effects. But during this phase, we have a special ability in our perks. It's called Southern Ingenuity. Once per turn, during the effects phase, you may discard an action card to draw a spoils card for your auction house. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to discard this Safe Haven card. And that's going to allow us to draw a spoils card for the auction house. We're lacking some equipment, particularly some combat equipment, so maybe we can get something like that. So we'll draw a spoils card and see what we get. Okay, well, we got a vehicle. It's a cheap mountain bikes. All right, gives us +1 to movement and some benefits to combat and survival. So, all right, I'm going to mount that into a sleeve then, and we'll add that to our total. That's at least a vehicle for us. All right, so I've mounted that into our vehicle sleeves, and that will give us an extra die then during tests. That's good. And next up is our town business phase. Now we have an action card that I'm going to play, and it says here, Professional Town Militia. Play during the town business phase. Attach this card to your town player mat. Then discard it anytime for one of the following. And that basically provides us some protection if we lose a improvement or anything really to other card play. So we'll add that and activate that at our display. And incidentally, the cheap mountain bikes that we have as our vehicle gave us +1 to movement, so I've moved up our movement bonus from 3 to 4. And the first step of the town business phase is deal. It says receive an action card, so we get to draw an action card. And we draw the card, Government Transparency. Play during the effects phase. Attach this card to your town playmat. Each town business phase, subtract 1 from your town events roll. Okay, that's great. So we'll play that at the start of the next turn. The next step is our resource production. Our current resource production is +1 to town health and 1 salvage coin, and that's due to our bonus resource location that we began the game with. So we're going to gain 1 salvage coin and +1 to our town health. So our town health will go up to 31. And then also right now we have an extra salvage coin. We're up to 11. Next part of the phase is our auction house phase. And in the solo rules, we draw 3 spoils cards, and we're able to purchase any or all of them for their listed salvage coin value. Okay, let's draw the cards and see what's available. Okay, those cards are revealed to be 2 vehicles and a melee weapon. Sledgehammer. Well, the vehicles are unfortunately out of our price range. We only have a total of 11 salvage, so we won't be able to purchase those. But the sledgehammer is a melee weapon, and we definitely have a link that will help someone with a melee weapon. That's Dominic Sinclair. So I think we're going to purchase that sledgehammer for Dominic. It'll cost us 6 points, 6 salvage, but that is going to be useful to him. That will create a match for his link for melee weapons. So we'll pay the 6. That'll leave us with 5 salvage left, and we'll add that sledgehammer to his set of cards. So that sledgehammer now is going to add quite a bit to help out Dominic with his combat ability. He also gets his link for the melee weapon, so we've placed that counting chip there. It gives him a +3 bonus for having that melee weapon, which is great. So it was a good purchase on our part. The other 2 cards we didn't purchase will go to the discard. All right, the next step now is our town events chart roll. We're going to roll a 1d10 for our faction, and we're going to consult the town events chart, see what happens. And here's the roll. Okay, the roll is a 1. And if we read the 1 result, it says gain 2 prestige, 4 town health, and an action, spoils, or character card. Well, that's great. We have the option to draw an action, spoils, or character card, and I think we're going to draw a spoils card. Oh, and the card is revealed to be a semi-truck. It's a vehicle. You may equip a second vehicle face down under this card. If the semi-truck is destroyed, immediately equip the second vehicle to your party. Well, that'll work out great. We're going to put the mountain bikes then underneath that card, and then in case the semi-truck is destroyed, we'll still have our mountain bikes. This has the same movement bonus as the mountain bike, so we won't change that. We're still at a +4 for that, but that's a great vehicle, so we'll do that. All right, now we have to make the rolls for our opposing factions, and that's using the OFTEC chart. And the first roll will be for the highwaymen. Here's their roll. And they rolled a 10. +8 town health and +5 prestige. Okay. And also there's going to be a secondary effect. We have to roll a d6 and find out what happens. So we'll make that roll right now. Roll is a 1. And that one says on a 1, nothing happens. Okay, so that's good. But they have taken the lead in both prestige. They're at 6 now. And on town health, they're at 38. Now, as we're playing a moderate level difficulty, there will only be 1 special or secondary effect, rather, per round. So we've used that already. So even if it's called for, there won't be any more secondary effects during the turn. Okay, now this is the roll for the Enclave of Terra. And they rolled a 5. And a 5 reads +4 to town health and +2 to prestige. So we'll move their prestige up to 2. That puts them to 3. And their town health goes up 4. That puts them to 34. So as it stands now, the highwaymen are in first place on the prestige track. They have 6. And then both us and the Enclave of Terra have 3 on the prestige track. Highwaymen are also ahead on the town health chart. They're on 38. We're in second with 35, and the Enclave of Terra has 34. Next phase is the financial phase, and we're able to sell spoils and actions cards and town technologies and town defense chips. And we won't be doing any of that. I'm going to keep what we have. I'm happy with that. Then there would be a purchase phase where we could buy Tier 1 town technologies or upgrade existing town technologies. But unfortunately, we don't have enough salvage coins, so we won't be doing that. So now we're going to move on to our exploits phase. And the first part of that is we're going to use our pre-war disaster kit. Our pre-war disaster kit allows us to, once per turn before the party exploits phase, we can roll a d6 and find out what benefit that will give us. Okay, here's our D6 roll. And the roll is a 1. And it says you can re-roll a 10 on a skill check during the turn. Okay, that's pretty useful. That's good. I made a note of that ability. I'm going to place that on our party card, and then that will remind us that we'll have that ability when we place our dice on the character crowns. We'll begin our party exploits phase, and I think what we're going to do is, I'm still pretty weak in a lot of categories, so I'm going to try to limit my exposure to simpler encounters if possible. Now there's a resource that's located a few hexes to the west of our location. I think we'll start with that one and see how that plays out. There is also another resource that's located to the east and another one to the northeast of us. So we'll take a look at our movement roll and see what kind of value we have, and then we'll decide on which path we're going to take. So we're going to roll a d6, and we're going to add our movement bonus to that. We have a movement bonus currently of 4, so let's see what we get. And we have 4 here, so that's a total of 8 movement points. And we're spending one of our weeks in this move action, so that leaves us 3 weeks remaining. And let's take a look at where we can move to. And I think we'll begin by attempting to target this resource location to the west of us. So we're going to expend 1, 2, 3, 4 of our 8 movement points, and that will reach that resource location. I'll turn our token 90 degrees to let us know that we cannot take a move action until we take an encounter of some kind. And I think now we're going to undertake a resource action that'll cost us 2 weeks, moves us down to 1 week remaining. I'll move us back into a be able to move position, and then I think we're going to try a plains encounter, and if we can pass that, we're going to gain our first, second resource. We already have one from our starting faction perks. All right, and that plains encounter is I must be living in paradise. Special. This little town has remained unscathed by the corrupted touch of the Great War. Not only does the Dewdrop Inn have the best stuffed Anaheim peppers you've ever had, but the people are kind and accommodating. The prosperity here lends hope for a brighter future for the Fallen Lands. Someday. And the card reads, all party members are automatically healed 2 damage of any type from this restful atmosphere. You may also attempt to heal here. If Sheila Axler is in your party, draw 2 free spoils cards. She grew up here. And it also says you may draw another encounter card at no cost in weeks. Well, I'm not going to draw another encounter card. We have 1 week remaining we can spend for this month, but I think what we will do is now that captures that resource location for us, and we'll mark that accordingly. So we've placed one of our tokens underneath there, and that means we've captured that resource. That's our second. And we'll move our resources up to 2 now. And it's going to give us +2 to town health and 4 salvage coins. That's great. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to undertake another move action. So that'll spend our last week for the month. And we're going to make a roll for our move. Our movement bonus is 4, so let's see how many movement points we get. And again, we have 4, so that's going to be 8 movement points. All right. And I think we're going to make a movement towards the resource hex to the north of us. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. That city hex costs us 3 movement points. And we'll turn our token there, and that means we're going to have to perform some type of encounter there next turn before we'll be able to move again. And that's going to complete our exploits phase. We'll move on to the end turn phase. And all we have to do there is move our turn marker up 1. So we'll move that up from 1 to 2. And we're ready to begin another turn. Now the rules don't specifically state this, but I'm assuming that the use of that pre-war disaster kit only applies to that turn that we make that roll. So the reroll on a 10 skill check, I think, is only if we don't use it, we lose it. That's what I'm assuming is correct. And we begin the new turn with an effects phase. Nothing is needed to be resolved. We do have a action card that I'm going to play though, and that is the Government Transparency card. It says play during the effects phase. Attach this card to your town player mat. Each town business phase, subtract 1 from your town events roll. That'll be very useful, so we're going to do that. And now we'll move on to our town business phase. We'll start with our deal subsection. It says receive an action card. And that card is revealed to be Battle Fury. Play anytime during a combat skill check to gain 3 additional successes. That's a great card. All right, we'll put that into our collection of cards. That's great. And now we move on to resource production. We're going to gain 4 salvage coins and +2 to our town health. That'll move our town health up from 35 up to 37. So we're 1 point underneath the highwayman. It gives us a total of 9 salvage. Next up is the auction house, where we're going to draw 3 spoils cards and we can purchase those for the list price. And those spoils are revealed to be equipment, medical, and that's a combat medic satchel, radiation and biohazard suits, that's party equipment, and then we have ranged weapon, classic 45 pistol. We can't afford the combat medic satchel, but we can afford either the radiation and biohazard suits or the classic 45 pistol. And I think we're going to purchase the classic 45 pistol for 6 salvage. I've assigned that classic 45 pistol to Herman Crawford. It's going to move his combat value up to 8. And now it's time for our town events chart roll. Now we have that Government Transparency card, which allows us to subtract 1 from our roll, which is good for us. So we'll make that roll now. Okay, here's the roll, and we can subtract 1. The roll is a 4, and that's going to move it down to a 3. And that roll will allow us to add 1 to our town health, and that puts us tied now with the highwayman at 38. So we'll move that accordingly. And now we're going to make our roll for the opposing factions, and this time we'll start with the Enclave of Terra. This is their D10 roll. And they rolled a 7. Okay, let's see what 7 does. 7 is a +5 to town health and +3 to prestige. And that's going to move the Enclave of Terra from 3 up to 6 prestige. And their town health will go from 34 up to 39. That puts them temporarily in first place. And unfortunately, we have to draw and play 2 cards from the red dot action deck. So let's take care of that now. And the first card is an NPCM, the Steel Brigade, Raider Mercenaries. All right, those have been hired by the Enclave of Terra, so we're going to place their token in that location. We placed that token in the Enclave of Terra up in Great Falls, Montana, and it reads here that NPCMs drawn from secondary effects come into play before the player takes their party exploits phase. That faction does not pay their hiring cost. Like the core rules, NPCMs originate in that faction's starting location. And we have to find out now what they are. It says here they would either be bounty hunters, raiders, assassins, and hitmen. Those are the choices. And on the card it's listing them as Raider Mercenaries. It says Raiders assignment is rolled for randomly with a D6. On a 1 to 3 they will move towards the player's nearest resource and claim it when they arrive. On a 4 to 6 they will move towards your starting town location and deal the listed damage. All right, we're going to place that Steel Brigade card off to the side, and then we'll take care of that during our party exploits phase. They have a movement value of 8. Okay, and that second action card, red dot action card, is Kidnapping and Ransom. Play during the town business phase. Select and confiscate another player's character without equipment. Unless they pay you 10 salvage coins or an equal value in spoils cards, they are killed. Upon payment, the character is returned but has 1 health remaining. Okay. Now we have that Professional Town Militia card, and it's going to protect us against that kidnapping card. So that one we can basically, I think we have to discard the Professional Town Militia to protect us with that. And it says then discard it any time for one of the following. And that is prevent any destruction, theft, or kidnapping. So that's what we're going to do, and we'll use that card to cancel that secondary action card. All right, we've already used up the secondary effect, so there won't be one on this roll no matter what. Here's their roll. And they rolled a 3. Okay, a 3 is +2 to town health and +1 prestige. That is going to move the highwaymen up to 7 on the prestige track, and that's also going to move their town health up from 38 up to 40. So once again, the highwaymen are in first place in both of the categories. They're at 7 on the prestige chart, followed by 6 for the Enclave of Terra, and we're at 3 right now. On the town health board, highwaymen have 40, Enclave of Terra at 39, and we're at 38. So we're a little closer with that metric. And we'll move on to our financial period. I don't really have anything that I want to sell, and we don't have enough salvage, unfortunately, to buy anything. So I think we will move on to our party exploits phase. Now we're going to begin our party exploits phase, but we have to deal with those that Steel Brigade, the non-player character mercenaries. We're going to make a d6 roll, and that's going to determine their target. On a 1 to 3, they're going to move toward our nearest resource and claim it when they arrive. On a 4 to 6, they will move toward our starting town location and deal the listed damage. Okay, here's the roll. And they rolled a 1, so they are going to move toward our nearest resource and attempt to claim it. Now the Steel Brigade has a movement value of 8, and the closest resource for them is probably going to be the one that's here in New Mexico. So we're going to move them 8 movement points towards that location. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then they can move 1 without, regardless of the terrain. It'll move them into that location. All right, so that Steel Brigade is going to remain active until the next turn, and they're going to continue rolling to decide on their target. All right, we're ready to start our portion of the turn. So we have 4 weeks from which we can spend. And before we do that, we're going to make our roll for the pre-war disaster kit and find out what our bonus is for the turn. Okay, here's the roll. Roll is a 6. And if I remember correctly, that is no effect, and that's what it is. So we have no special benefit from that for this turn. And I think we're going to spend 2 points of our 2 weeks. It'll move us down to 2 weeks remaining, and we're going to attempt to do a resource action on that space. That will allow us to go into a movement ability after that. So I think we're going to attempt a plains encounter. And this one doesn't sound good. It says Colossal Carnage. Rolling black smoke on the horizon alerts you to the danger ahead. You cautiously deviate onto a well-concealed side path and spy a small town in flames in the distance. Warily, you enter the smoldering rubble, hoping to be of some assistance. Haggard survivors emerge from the shadows of the shelled-out buildings. Armed with compound bows, they quickly surround you. The look playing across their grim features suggests they intend to blindly extract revenge against the perpetrators of these crimes. All right, well, we're going to start with receiving 2 salvage coins. And we have to start by doing a diplomacy check with 4 successes required, and that'll be followed by a medical check with 3 successes required. All right, let's go to our player board. All right, we'll make our roll for our checks. Okay, those are the results. We're going to place those on the character crowns and analyze that. And we'll begin with character crown 1. That's Staff Sergeant Carter Neal. He rolled a 5. His diplomacy value is an 8, so we're going to gain a success for that. We'll mark that accordingly. Next is Dominic Sinclair. He has a diplomacy of 8. He rolled a 3. That'll give us another success. Then we have Addison Morley. His diplomacy is 7. However, he rolled a 9, so that's a failure. And then we have Herman Crawford. He rolled a 1, and his diplomacy was a 6, so that is a success. We've got 3 of them there. Now that one could be re-rolled if we need it. Monica Pitcher has a diplomacy of 8. She rolled a 6, and that's our 4th success. So we've got the successes we needed to pass that diplomacy test. Now we have to do a medical check with 3 successes required. And here's our medical check roll. Okay, those are the results. We'll put those on the crowns and analyze that. All right, to begin, we have a medical center, so that's going to give us an automatic success. We've got 1 right there. Now we've got Sergeant Carter. His medical is a 7. He rolled a 6, so that's a success. Dominic Sinclair has a 5 value. He rolled 9. That's a failure. Addison Morley has a total of 9 for medical. He rolled a 4, so that's a success. And we've got our 3 successes there. So we've completed that encounter, and we'll read the success portion of the card. And the success part reads, talking fast, you convince them of your innocence. You win them over with comforting words, medical assistance, and an offer of asylum. They couldn't be happier to leave this hellhole. Gathering their meager belongings, they make haste for your town. We're going to gain 2 town health and 1 town defense chip. Well, that is great. All right, so we're going to place that town defense chip at our starting location. And we're also going to gain control of that resource there. Mark it accordingly, and that's going to move us up to 3 resources, which is 3 town health and 9 salvage coins per turn. Now we have 2 weeks left to spend. And I think we're going to take a move deed. That'll leave us with 1 week remaining. And we'll make a roll for movement. Our move bonus is 4, so we'll add 4 to the result. We rolled a 1. It's going to give us a total of 5 movement points for this move action. And I think we're going to head towards the resource location located to the east. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to turn our token, and we won't be able to take another move action until we do an encounter. Now we have 1 week left, so I think we'll take the encounter right now. We're going to do that. That'll exhaust our number of weeks we have in the month. And then we're going to do a plains encounter. That encounter reads Mysterious Deaths, Mystery. Do not discard until successfully completed. Citizens have been disappearing from your town only to be found weeks later brutally butchered. Your town militia suspects that a serial killer is on the loose, and consequently you have been ordered to return to your town ASAP to head up the investigation. Travel to your town. Upon arrival, attempt these skill checks. Lose 1 town health each turn until completed. All right, that's going to require us to do some diplomacy and a combat check with a possible psychological damage occurring. All right. We'll place that card on our player board as a reminder, and we're going to need to travel back to our main base. And we're going to move on to the end phase now. That's going to move the turn marker to number 3, and we're ready to begin a new turn. And we'll begin the new turn with an effects phase. There are no effects to resolve at this point. Now we'll move on to Town Business phase, and we're going to receive an action card. And that card is revealed to be Reaver Witch Doctor. Play any time to discard a Jinx card in play. Additionally, you may pay 5 salvage coins to immediately assign that card to an opponent, as denoted in the card's directions. All right, well, we're going to keep that add that to our list of cards. And we'll move on to our resource production phase. We're going to gain +3 to town health and 9 salvage coins, which is great. And that's going to move us up to a total of 14 salvage. And our town health now is going to rise to 43. Puts us in the lead on that track. Now we'll move on to our auction house phase. We're going to draw 3 spoils cards, and we can purchase them for the listed amount. All right, those cards are revealed to be vehicle equipment, permanent, blower or supercharger. It would add to movement. Compass and maps, it's equipment, survival. And I think one of our characters has a link with that. And that is Addison Morley would gain a link with the compass and maps. So I think we're going to be purchasing that. And then we have a ranged weapon, a 45 semi-automatic pistol. I think we're going to buy both of those. That'll cost us a total of 11 salvage coins. Now I've decided to give both of those items to Addison Morley. The compass and maps provides the link for him, which he'll gain +1 survival and +2 combat. We'll mark him accordingly. And I also gave him the 45 caliber automatic pistol, gives him a +3 to his combat. Now the compass and maps gives us a +1 to movement, so we're going to move that up from 4 to our movement bonus up to 5 now, which is really good. That was a good purchase for us. And next up is going to be our town events chart roll. Now we have that government transparency, which allows us to reduce the roll by 1. Here's our roll. We rolled a 5, and that is going to be modified to a 4, and we'll read what happens with that. A 4 is no effect, unfortunately. So now we're going to have to make our rolls for the opposing factions. And this time we'll roll for the highwaymen first, and the roll is a 3. Okay, that gives them +2 to town health and 1 prestige, but no secondary effect. That's good. So they're going to gain 1 prestige, that moves them up to 8. And they gain 2 town health, which moves them up to 42. And now we'll make the roll for the Enclave of Terra. Here's the roll. And that roll is a 7. Okay. So the Enclave of Terra is going to gain 5 town health, and that's going to move them up to 44. That'll put them in first place. And then they're going to gain 3 to prestige. That'll move them up to 9, and they'll be in first place on that category. And once again, the secondary effect is we have to draw and play 2 cards from the red dot action deck. Okay. And the first card is revealed to be Uncooperative Spirit. Play during the party exploits phase, immediately after another party has successfully completed an encounter or mission card. Move your party to that hex and gain the rewards they should have received. Then make a fight check with +4 bonus versus their party. If you succeed, move 6 hexes away. If you fail, move to player versus player combat with that party. First strike does not occur. All right, we're going to place that on the card for that faction. And then we will move on to the next one. And the next card is a much better offer. Play during the party exploits phase on an opponent's hired mercenaries. Pay twice their hiring cost to immediately gain control of them. At their current location, they perform 1 less listed assignment on their card for you. Okay, we'll place both of those cards on the Enclave of Terra card, and they'll be able to use those during the turn. Okay, we'll move on to our financial period, and we can do a sales. We can sell things, and I think I'm going to sell this Reaver Witch Doctor action card for its salvage value. So we're going to gain 8 salvage. That would move us up to 11 salvage. And then now we'd be able to purchase some town resources if we chose. We don't have enough for that, so we're going to move on to the party exploits phase, and we have to start with that Steel Brigade, the NPCMs moving from the Enclave of Terra, and we'll see what they're going to target during this move. All right, here's the NPCM's movement roll. They rolled a 5. Now that means that they are going to target toward our starting town location and deal the listed damage. Okay, now their movement is 8. Okay, and they have 8 movement points. They're going to move 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're very close to our getting very close to our headquarters. And now we're going to make a roll to find out what our pre-war disaster kit is going to give us, if anything. And the roll is a 4. So let's see what 4 does for us. And that's going to give us gaining 2 movements. So we have +2 to our movement roll during the turn. That's great. All right, so we have 4 weeks to spend, and we have that Mysterious Deaths card that is active. That means we need to travel back to our hometown. So that's what we're going to do. We'll start with a move action. So we're going to undertake a move action that'll move us down from 4 weeks to 3 weeks available. And our movement bonus is 5 plus 2 extra for our pre-war disaster kit. So that gives us a total of 7 plus a d6. It gives us a maximum total of 9 movement points during the turn. That should be plenty to get back home. And we'll head back to our base. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we successfully arrive back at our main base. And we're going to need to try to resolve this Mysterious Deaths mystery. And it starts out with we're going to gain 4 salvage coins. That'll boost us up to a total of 15, which is good. And then we have to perform a 4 successes diplomacy. We need a diplomacy check with 4 successes, and then combat check with 4 successes. Now we do have several cards that will give us combat bonuses, so if we can try to get past this diplomacy check, we have a good chance on being able to complete this card. All right, our first check is going to be a diplomacy check. We need 4 successes. Here is our roll. Okay, those are the results, and we'll place those on the character crowns. And we'll start with Sergeant Carter. His diplomacy value is an 8. He rolled a 3. That gives us a success. Dominic Sinclair has a diplomacy of 8. He rolled a 6. That's going to gain us a success. Addison Morley, he rolled a 10. So there is nothing there. That's nothing we can do with that. That's an instant failure. Herman Crawford, his diplomacy is a total of 6. And he rolled a 6, so that is a success. And finally, Monica Pitcher. Her diplomacy is an 8 plus 2 for her link. That gives us 10. So that is an automatic success, and we've got our 4 successes there. We would have had our semi-truck as well. We would have passed that, so we would have actually had 5 successes in total. So we've passed the first portion. And now we need to perform a combat check with 4 successes. Okay, here is the roll. Okay, there are the results, and we're going to place those on the character crowns. Okay, the first one is Sergeant Carter. His total is 14, so that is a success. And then he also gets a second success. He rolled, the remainder on that is 4. He rolled a 1, so he's going to generate 2 successes with the option of re-rolling if he chose. Then we'll move on to Dominic Sinclair. He has a total of 12. That is a success with a remainder of 2. He doesn't get an extra one, though. He rolled 4. Addison Morley has a total of 8. He rolled a 1, and that is our 4th success right there. So we won't need to go any further, and we've completed the task. So we're able to read the success portion of the card. It says, "You catch the vile murderer in the act. She is brought to trial, found guilty, and executed. The mourning of families of the deceased scrape together a reward. We're going to gain 2 prestige, 1 spoils, and 1 action card. That is great. Okay, the 2 prestige moves us from 3 up to 5. We're still in 3rd place on that category, but we're getting better. And then we're going to gain a spoils and action card. Let's see what those are. All right, here's the spoils card, and that is a vehicle. Old Rusty. Curtis Wyatt enters play with Old Rusty. It may be equipped in conjunction with another vehicle or vehicles by equipping it to that vehicle. All bonuses are cumulative. If your vehicle is destroyed, you choose which to discard. Okay, that's very interesting. And Curtis Wyatt is revealed to be a redneck salvager. And Curtis enters play with his pickup truck, Old Rusty. Retrieve it from the spoils deck or confiscate it from another player. Anytime a player takes a card from the spoils discard pile, you gain 5 salvage coins. All right. All right, so we have equipped Old Rusty to the semi-truck, and we're going to place Curtis Wyatt in the town roster reserves. And now our action card reward was Enlightenment. Play during the party exploits phase. Instead of drawing an encounter card, search the deck appropriate to your location to find a world card of your choice and put it into play. Then gain 1 prestige before reshuffling that deck. Okay, that's great. Now, unfortunately, the Enclave of Terra has a red dot action card that is going to be played right now. That's that uncooperative spirit. And it says, play during the party exploits phase immediately after another party has successfully completed an encounter or mission card. Move your party to the hex and gain the rewards they should have received. Then make a fight check with a +4 bonus versus their party. If you succeed, move 6 spaces away. If you fail, move to PvP combat with that party. First strike does not occur. So that is going to have to be played. So unfortunately, that means they are going to gain the rewards that we would have received. And that's going to be Old Rusty, Curtis Wyatt, the Enlightenment card, and 2 prestige, which is what we received from that Mysterious Deaths card. So that's going to move their prestige up to 11, and we're back where we were at 3. Now, a part of the Solo Variant 2 rules for player versus player says that there can only be 1 PvP party or NPCM in play at a time. If another opposing party is already in play, ignore the effects and discard 1d10 salvage coins instead. So I think that is going to be the solution to the other portion of this card, where it says that we have to make a fight check with a +4 bonus versus the party. And that's because of this NPCM token that's already on the board. So we're going to make a 1d10 roll, I guess, and then that will be the number of salvage that we're going to lose in that as a part of that attack. Okay, here's the roll. And that is a 5. So we're going to lose 5 salvage coins, and that will take care of that uncooperative spirit card. All right, so we have 3 weeks left in our in the month, and I think we're going to use that to undertake a move action. Our move bonus is 5, and here's our d6. Roll is a 4, so we've got 9 movement points. And that's going to move our number of weeks down from 3 down to 2. And I think we're going to head for the resource that is to the east of us. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to spend our last 2 weeks of the month, and we're going to undertake a resource deed. And I think we'll use a Plains card. And that card reads, Berserk Giant Grizzly Wild Animals. Your band is jarred awake by the crashing of dried branches from the thicket. Within moments, a gargantuan grizzly bear lopes into the center of camp. Regarding you momentarily with its beady, bloodshot eyes, It lets forth a long, ferocious roar. Rearing, its massive frame towers several feet above you. Hypnotized by its long yellow fangs and putrid breath, you manage to dodge the first swipe of its enormous claws and dive for your melee weapons. All right, we're going to gain 3 salvage coins, and then we have to make a melee combat test. Now we need 5 successes, and any wounds we take are going to be infected wounds. All right, so this is a combat test only with melee weapons. Here's the roll. Okay, there are the results, and we'll place those on the character crowns. All right, we'll start out with Sergeant Carter. He can only use melee weapons, so his value will be 8. He rolled a 5. That's a success. For Dominic Sinclair, he has a melee weapon. That's the sledgehammer, so his total is 11. That's 1 success and no additional success there. Oh, we do have +3 for melee weapons, so that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, we still only get the 1, so we have 2 right now. Addison Morley has a total of 5. He rolled a 4. That's a success. Herman Crawford has 4, 5. Nope, that is not a... Yep, he only had a 5. That was a 4, so he's good. We got the success. Herman Crawford has no melee weapons, so his combat is 4. He rolled a 1. That's a success. That's 4. And then Monica Pitcher. She has no melee weapons, and she would fail that one. She has a 6, and she rolled a 7. So there's no help there. And then we have the semi-truck. The roll is a 6. Roll is a 4, and the combat value is a 6, so that we've got the 5 successes that we needed. So we've passed the test. So we'll read the success portion of the card. You slay the titanic beast in an epic battle. Later, you trade her beautiful pelt at the next settlement for some new gear. All right. So, receive 2 spoils cards. Let's see what we get for this. And that's going to give us a high-tech utility belt, and that gives us +2 to the portage value of whoever we assign that to, plus some other bonuses. And then a 44 semi-automatic pistol. All right, well, we'll assign those pieces of equipment to our party, and we're going to gain that resource location. We'll mark it accordingly, and that's going to move our resources up to +4 town health and 16 salvage coins. All right, we're going to assign those cards then to the party members. All right, I've assigned the high-tech utility belt to Addison Morley, and that's because his portage abilities are getting, he's using up a lot of his capacity, 6, 7, and now he has a total of 11, 12, 13 for his carrying capacity, so that'll help him out quite a bit. And then the 44 semi-automatic we assigned to Monica Pitcher. And that's going to complete the turn. We'll move into the end phase, and we're going to move our turn marker up from 3 to 4. Currently, the status of the tracks right now for the Prestige track, we have the Enclave of Terra at 13, with the Highwaymen at 8, and we are currently back quite a ways at 3. We're doing a little bit better on the Town Health track, where the Terra is at 44, we're at 43, and the Highwaymen are at 42. And we're ready to begin a new turn.